Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeff Malinoff. With me, as always, is Mark Souza. We got some interesting off-season topics to talk about in the world of football. We have the Joe Flacco trade to the Broncos, and what does that mean for not only the Broncos, but for the Baltimore Ravens and a certain quarterback that the Broncos signed last year. But I think you know who I'm talking about. We'll also talk about a picture of a certain wide receiver from Ole Miss that looks like he's Thanos. And, or basically Aaron Donald, for those who haven't seen Aaron Donald's body. Okay, getting off topic. And we'll also talk about Kingsbury and his thoughts on the whole Kyler Murray being drafted in the first pick by the Cardinals rumors that have been going around, and the future of Rosen on the Cardinals squad, and Antonio Brown being officially asking for a trade. We will discuss that as well. But first things first, we should discuss Joe Flacco is going to be traded on March 13th when it's officially time to trade to the Denver Broncos for a fourth-round pick. And this is an interesting move, and it feels to me that John Elway is trying to get a second Peyton Manning type of deal going, which is, I believe, the wrong move. What are your thoughts, Mark?
Yeah, it seems like a very odd move for the Broncos to make, especially the timing of it all. We know that trades cannot be even official until about a month from now. I think it's March 13th.
Have they even announced it? I think it's just been rumors, but it seems like it's almost as good as official, right?
Well, they've announced it, but it's not official.
They've announced it?
It's not official, though.
Mm-hmm. It's an unofficial announcement.
To the trade, but they cannot actually process the trade. So, technically, the Ravens could not trade him, and the Broncos could take back their
It could fall apart by next month, absolutely.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, obviously that would be a very bad look, and probably a lot of hard feelings.
This stuff like this has happened in the past, so don't be super surprised if that happens. But yes, you are right. It would look bad on their part, but granted, I think bottom line of the matter is, this is an interesting move for the Broncos. This is obviously them giving up on Case Keenum. He's officially, they will officially shop him as well. I think that's a foregone conclusion based off this trade alone. But I don't think I would give up on Case Keenum so soon. What would you do?
Well, they're gonna have to, right?
Like, yeah, but like
I wouldn't pay $32 million for two quarterbacks.
Of course not. It would be ridiculous. But I just think it's the wrong move to move on from Case Keenum so soon. I think you should have gave him, you only signed him on a 2-year deal, so why not keep him from this next year and see how he does and go from there? Why do you have to give up on him after one season?
Yeah, it seems like a really weird move.
It seems premature, doesn't it?
I could understand it if I was confident that Flacco is a step up from Keenum, but I don't even know if that's true. Like, you would have to convince me that Flacco
got benched. For a guy that doesn't really throw, he's more of a run guy. He's more of a running back on the quarterback position than anything else. So he's not coming off like the best year or something. Like, he's not coming off something like truly remarkable. He's coming off probably one of the worst years of his career, to be honest with you, based how it ended.
Yeah, I mean, Flacco's had a lot of bad seasons the last few years, and since 2012, out of 36 qualifying quarterbacks, this is quarterbacks with at least 1,000 pass attempts. He's 34th in touchdown interception ratio. He's 35th in first downs. He's 35th in yards per attempt. So he is basically in the bottom two.
He's like a backup quarterback rankings.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's been the fourth highest paid NFL player since that time.
it was because that extension after the Super Bowl win is what
Right.
took him over the top. So it's honestly like it's a win situation for the Ravens, if you ask me.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think they expected to get a 4th-round pick. They probably expected like a 7th-round pick, if anything.
For the Ravens, I think I think they do need to get another quarterback, though. They do need a backup quarterback because
of course.
Lamar Jackson, I think they need to protect themselves for when he gets hurt because he will get hurt if he keeps playing like that.
Oh, 100%. But getting rid of Flacco's contract is a huge boost.
Right. So for the Ravens, I think the next step is to go get one of these free agent backup quarterback or one of these free agent quarterbacks who could be their backup for a year or two. I mean, maybe a guy like Bortles, maybe a guy like Tannehill.
Tannehill, I can see. I am not giving Bortles the time of day.
We're talking about second strings, man.
I know,
like,
but
I'm not
still,
talking about a starting quarterback. I'm talking about they need a quarterback with NFL experience to back up Lamar Jackson.
I know what you're saying, but from what I've seen, I want Bortles as far away from my team as possible.
What if he's the best quarterback available on the market? Yes, we'd rather have Tannehill, but Tannehill might be a starter somewhere. A guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick might get signed to be a starter somewhere. I mean, yeah, ideally you don't want Bortles.
To be completely honest with you, if I was the Broncos, I would just try to get Fitzpatrick over Flacco. You won't lose anything, really, and you're getting a guy that can win games. He won games last year.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, why not go for Tyrod Taylor? Like, he would be a backup, or maybe even Trevor Siemian. Who knows? But going for Flacco, I'm sorry, is the wrong choice. But as for the Ravens is concerned, you might want to keep an RG3, like re-sign. I know he's a free agent, like maybe just re-sign him to another 1-year deal or something. But there's a lot of other quarterbacks they can take in besides a Blake Bortles, in my opinion. There's even Matt Castle, to be completely honest with you. I would take him over Bortles as my backup. And there's just a lot of different options there for them. So I don't think there is a shortage of quarterbacks to take as your backup. So I think the Ravens stole this one, honestly, in my opinion. They got away with stealing.
Yeah, I think that this is a buyer's market for quarterbacks, which is surprising because usually it's a seller's market in the NFL. But it definitely feels like this is an offseason that's a buyer's market because there are 4 or 5 potentially decent quarterbacks that can start for teams right now.
Some of these guys prove they can win as well.
And not only that, but we haven't even talked about the rookie class. Like, even if there's only 2 or 3 first-round quarterback potential, 2 to 3 plus 4 or 5 in the free agency, there's really only 5 or 6 teams looking at starting quarterbacks. It's definitely a buyer's market for the first time in a long time. And for the Ravens to get a 4th-round pick in a buyer's market for a guy like Joe Flacco, 34, about to be 35 years old, hasn't had a good season in 5 years, that's a good get for them. And for the Broncos, man, I don't know. I'm really starting to question John Elway as an executive. I get it. He's won a Super Bowl as an executive in the NFL. He has had more success than most executives. So we have to give him credit. Since then, it's just gone downhill.
Let's be honest. Peyton Manning saved his behind.
Right, but he got Peyton Manning. So you can't discredit that. He got Peyton Manning for whatever reason, was like, I want to play for the Broncos, and I want to play for John Elway, and I want to go to that team. Now,
true, very true.
We have to give him. I mean, even if he didn't do anything at all, but just say, hey, Peyton, you want to play for me? He got him there, and he won a Super Bowl, so you have to give him credit for it.
Yeah, give credit's due, I guess, but I'm not giving him too much credit for getting Peyton Manning. But regardless, they have Flacco now. I'm not sure what Flacco's going to do for them this season. I think they have the 10th pick of the draft this year. I say they stay in that they stay in that area. I say they stay in that top 10 pick area because the Flacco's not going to benefit them anyways. They hope they ride on Philip Lindsay more than anything else because of the fact that he's their best player now. He's an undrafted running back that's now their number 1 running back. But regardless, this was not the time to make a trade for a quarterback. You could, like you said, you could have got one in free agency. You could have even got one in the draft. Who knows what you could have gotten? But
you probably could have got Joe Flacco for free. if we're being honest.
True. This was just not the smartest move because I feel like there are other quarterbacks just as capable as Joe Flacco that you could have gotten for cheap.
If Joe Flacco was good, the Ravens wouldn't have been running to give him up for a 4th-round pick a month before you can actually trade any players.
Yeah. And, of course, John
Elway, like, 4th-round pick? Deal.
Yeah. And John Elway's history of drafting quarterbacks has been not the greatest.
No, it hasn't.
Let's just say he's striking out a lot.
Paxton Lynch was... So when you strike out on a first-round quarterback, especially one that you trade up for, it usually can be a 2 to 3 year ripple effect.
There was more than once.
But Paxton Lynch was the one that they really went after.
Yeah.
They traded up in front of Dallas to get Paxton Lynch because they were afraid the Cowboys would steal him. In actuality, they really wish that the Cowboys would have traded in front of them to get Paxton Lynch because the Broncos would have been better off for it. Paxton Lynch was so terrible that he was cut after 3 training camps, 2 NFL seasons, made 1 NFL start, and took about 2 months of being a free agent before Seattle was like, okay, we'll put him on our practice squad. How bad are you when you're a first-round talent and in 2 years you've barely played and people have seen enough of you? Like, that is an epic bust.
I think if you're recruited, if John Elway likes you as a quarterback, you're bad. I think that's just the thing now.
Like, Paxton Lynch made Jamarcus Russell look like a decent NFL
player. Okay, let's not go that far. But it's
how many years did Jamarcus last in the NFL?
Touche. But the fact of the matter, yeah, but true.
How many starts did Jamarcus get? I'm just saying. Okay, I'm not saying Jamarcus is good.
Granted, they had no one else at quarterback there. Like, who else?
Paxton Lynch went 3 training camps.
The guy in the third row,
top 15 pick, and couldn't win a job against Trevor Siemian.
The guy in the third row at a hot dog stand could have probably played quarterback for the Raiders when Jamarcus Russell was quarterback. Let's be honest here.
Jamarcus Russell should have just been the guy selling the hot dogs and playing quarterback at the same. He would have ate them all.
I was about to say he was eating them all. What are you talking about? He's like 300 pounds by the time he retired. Or I'm not sorry, he didn't retire. He had to retire because no one was going to take him. But regardless, John Elway has the worst record with quarterbacks, and I'm just saying, like, it wasn't for Peyton Manning, like we said. I don't know what he did. I don't know if he offered him, like, Papa John's or something. I'm not sure how that went down, but regardless, he got Peyton Manning there.
Maybe Elway thinks he could win with Flacco because not just the fact that Flacco has won a Super Bowl before, but John Elway didn't win a Super Bowl until John Elway became more of a game manager type quarterback. Not that he was
old, yeah.
Yeah, not that he was terrible when he won a Super Bowl, but he was past his prime.
He also had a number 30 at running back just like this year.
Yes. So he had a running game and a defense. John Elway had a running game and a defense when he finally broke through and got that Super Bowl.
Do you know who also was on that team that people like really underutilized, but I think he was just as important? Is Shannon Sharp, man. He had a great tight end. He had a great receiving option.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
But
like maybe is there
a receiving option for Flacco?
Maybe John Elway saw, or that's how he views it now. Because look, John Elway was past his prime when he won a Super Bowl, but he had a good running game and a good defense. John Elway, who does he find to win him a Super Bowl as an executive? Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning did how many Super Bowl or how many Pro Bowls? How many records did Peyton Manning set? But when Peyton Manning went to the Broncos, past his prime, post-injury Peyton Manning, more of a game manager. Now maybe that's where he sees Flacco.
He threw 55 touchdown passes, though. Is that really being a game manager if you throw 55 touchdown passes?
He threw 55 when they won the Super Bowl?
When they went to the first one.
Well, they won a Super. He threw 55. Really?
Yeah.
I don't remember that at all.
You don't remember him breaking the record with 55 touchdown passes?
No, I really don't.
You can even look it up. I believe it was the 2012.
But we all know that Peyton Manning
season.
was past his prime. I mean, 55, 65, 75, it doesn't matter. Peyton Manning was not nearly as good.
But he wasn't really a game manager. But he was
absolutely a game manager. When they won the Super Bowl, Peyton Manning managed their way to a Super Bowl win.
That year probably, but at the beginning he was not supposed to be the game. He was the guy. He was a record breaker, and he was MVP, I believe, of that season. And yeah, during that Super Bowl,
Peyton Manning, I don't believe won the MVP in a year where he missed like half the season.
No, I'm not talking about the Super Bowl run.
Gotcha.
I'm talking about the 55 touchdown season.
Yeah,
where I'm pretty sure he won the MVP.
But what I'm saying is,
during
the
that
Broncos
time,
won the Super Bowl with a game manager quarterback.
During that playoff run, yes, they did not ride. They didn't ride Peyton Manning. They rode Von Miller.
Yeah, I mean, they were a complete team.
Yeah.
Like, they were a defense.
And let's be honest, if like that Super Bowl where they lost by 48-8, that safety really like just took the gas out of everybody. I think that was like just the beginning of the end. Like I never seen a game end so early, but that safety, that first snap, that was just doomed to fail. After that, there was no way of coming back from that. And like nothing against anyone else, but like it's Peyton Manning.
I remember when they got absolutely demolished in that Super Bowl against Seattle.
That was the 55 touchdown year,
and a lot of people expected to see that happening.
Well, they were the number one offense in the league versus the number one defense in the league, so it was like, oh, it's gonna be a battle.
But
and
even still, like
that
everyone knew that the Seahawks were gonna crush the,
but
Broncos.
Not like that.
I don't know, man. I mean, I don't know about the general perception, but
there was like if you watch like
winning a lot of money on that game because of that.
But
that
the thing
seemed like such a slam dunk Super Bowl.
I don't know about that because there was a lot of like if you watch ESPN and all those other analysts and like even like some smaller.
I'm not talking about everybody else. I'll say in my opinion, I've seen 2 Super Bowls where I thought the outcome was going to be a blowout before the game even started, and that was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Raiders, and then the Seahawks beating the Broncos.
Again,
that had blowout in my eyes, had blowout written all over it.
You know, the Raiders had an MVP in Rich Gannon that year also. Maybe there's something about MVP quarterbacks facing number one defenses to you.
Yeah, it doesn't always work out, you know.
I honestly did not see a blowout happening until I saw that spot snap. As soon as I saw that, I'm like, these guys are not ready. Like, there was just so much. There was, like, I know it's one game, one play, but that was just, like, you should know that Peyton Manning's going to, like, change up the offensive play that's happening because he does that every single play. That's just
So kind of going back to what I was saying, like, maybe that's what John Elway thinks. Like, he won a Super Bowl, finally won a Super Bowl as more of a game manager type. Peyton Manning won a Super Bowl for him, more of a game manager type. Maybe he thinks Flacco can come in, not mess it all up. We have a good defense.
But is their defense as good as it was when they won the Super Bowl? I don't think so.
It's not as good as when they won the Super Bowl, but they have a really good start. That defense.
You still have Von Miller, no doubt about it.
And they have Bradley Chubb. Like, they can rush the passer. No, they're not a great defense by any means. But Chris Harris is a really good cornerback, and they have the potential to add on some pieces. They have the 2 most important parts. They have 2 edge rushers that are very feared in this league: Von Miller, Bradley Chubb. They can be a good defense quickly. Also, who did they hire as head coach? Vic Fangio.
True.
Defensive guy. His defenses are always good. And don't forget, his defense was very good with the Bears even before Khalil Mack. He had a very good defense, and then Khalil Mack made it from very good to terrifying.
And what happened? John Gruden.
Yeah, he helped him out with that. So, obviously, Elway, I think, is the mastermind here when it comes to offense. Vic Fangio is a defensive coach. He's not going to have a lot of say when it comes to the offensive side of the football.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things in where we don't know how this is going to turn out until we see the beginning of the season. But to me, it's not looking good to start off this offseason. Because this is one of the most questionable trades I've ever seen. If
I'm a Broncos fan, I'm pissed because this is such a low upside type of move. I don't get it. Low risk, low upside. It doesn't do anything for me. And if I'm a Broncos fan, I'm thinking this is how we address quarterback, was signing a quarterback who's 5 years older than our current starter who hasn't been good in 4 or 5 years. Like, come on. It's
like Valentine's Day. It's like, all right, I can't mess this up. And you wake up in the morning and you forget to give her flowers. It's like, oh, that's not a good start.
Yeah, so
it's funny because it's Valentine's Day. Get it?
I don't know if anybody was even thinking of trading for him at all, let alone giving up a fourth round pick.
Yeah, I hate to say this, he wasn't worth a 4th round pick. That's high for me. Mm-hmm. I would say, if anything, a 7th round pick, conditional 5th round pick maybe, but he's not worth as high as he was drafted. And it wasn't even that high of a draft pick, but regardless, you didn't need to do it. It was completely unnecessary.
Yeah, absolutely. So news, we should take a break. When we come back, we'll talk a little Antonio Brown, Cliff Kingsbury, Teddy Bridgewater. the AAF, and a recent photo of a prospect entering the NFL draft that has caught the media's attention.
Yeah, and scared them. We'll talk about it right after this.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's GSMCpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back, everyone, to the GSMC Football Podcast. Just finished up our talk about Joe Flacco and his future with the Denver Broncos as they traded a fourth-round draft pick for him. But it hasn't been official yet. It'll happen on the 13th of March. But it seems like it's basically a foregone conclusion that's happening. But regardless, let's move into other possible destinations for other players. Most notably, probably the most interesting free agent quarterback that I think can have a great future is Teddy Bridgewater.
Yep. 26 years old, former first-round pick. He suffered a gruesome injury, but he's been able to stay healthy the last couple of years, albeit not played too much.
Yeah, he's played all right. Like he won't be 100% ever, I don't think, but I think he's good, like a 99, I would say, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I have no idea about that. It's hard for us to tell. I mean, he hasn't even played football, so.
Oh, he played a couple of downs for Minnesota again, and then.
Yeah, but I mean, not important football. He kneeled the ball and handed it off. I think he threw a pass once or twice, but he hasn't played. Let's be honest. He just hasn't played football, so we have no idea, but he's still very young. 26 years old. Tremendous upside. I would rather the Broncos have kicked the tires on Teddy Bridgewater than to have traded for Joe Flacco, if I'm being completely honest. Mm-hmm. I don't know what Bridgewater is, but I'm more intrigued. I'll tell you that. If I was a Broncos fan, I'd be more intrigued. I'll tell you that. What do you think?
I like him a lot more than Joe Flacco. That's for damn sure. But I think the main thing is just you got to give this guy an opportunity. Like, he has so much potential. Like, he has the ability. He's coming off a gruesome knee injury, but that was 5 years ago now. It's been a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And for guys that need a quarterback, like the Jaguars or the Giants or any of those type of teams, he would be great for them.
Yeah. I'm not sure what his market will be. I know that the Saints are probably not going to be able to keep him because the Saints don't have too much money to spend, under $15 million projected. I think Bridgewater is going to go for anywhere from $7 to $10 million. Honestly, I think he'll get a 1 or 2 year deal, $7 to $10 million somewhere, kind of a backup contract, maybe with the potential to win a starting job. Obviously, no team's going to throw hundreds of millions of dollars at him or anything close, but someone I think will kick the tires. Jacksonville could be a good destination. That would be an interesting spot. Yeah, there's other spots too. I mean, Washington. Who knows what Washington's going to do? I
mean, if you're coming off an injury and seeing Alex Smith, you probably want to avoid Washington, no? Kind of bad luck there.
If you're him or them?
If you're him.
I don't know. I mean, does that really matter, or is he just going to go with whoever gives him the best chance to make money?
Obviously that, but I would probably look into it. I would just say, for my own, personally, I'd be like, not the best history of knee injuries on that place, but granted. it's all about money. It's all about getting opportunities, which I'm assuming there will be some of the teams will give him first string opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing, right? Like, if the Redskins, they're one of the teams that they're starting over at quarterback. I mean, the Giants, maybe they're sticking with Eli. It looks like they're sticking with Eli until they find someone else. The Ravens have their guy. They drafted one last year. That's why they traded Flacco. Now Denver seems to be out of the market. You're looking at, Jacksonville? You're looking at Washington.
Honestly,
Giants.
I think Jacksonville is the most attractive spot because they have a defense to help you.
Yeah, but who knows if they're interested, right? So there's
Well,
not
I'm
too
sure
many
they're
teams right
interested.
now. There's not too many teams that will give Bridgewater a chance to start and pay him decent money. So he's just going to have to go where
I honestly think a lot of teams are just going to be interested in at least talking to him because I think they see potential in him. If they don't, I think it's a little bit of just too much worry about his injuries, which I get.
Is there another team that I'm missing, though, that could potentially be interested in giving him a chance?
You said Washington and Jacksonville and New York?
Yeah, as teams that would potentially be interested in giving him a chance to start. Not like, hey, we have a starter, here's backup quarterback money.
Gosh, I don't think so. Not to my knowledge, at least. If this Derek Carr and Oakland thing is still not going well, then maybe there, but...
And I would find that
shocking, yeah, absolutely. But
just because if they move on from Derek Carr, to me, that means they'd either go after a guy like Nick Foles or they'd go after, Kyler Murray or something like that.
Honestly, with John Gruden, do we really know what he's thinking?
Well, we know that he usually doesn't like young quarterbacks, so I would think it'd be more veteran market.
He'll ask Brad Johnson to come back.
Yeah, I mean, I would see that more of a possibility.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to think of other teams. I don't really see another team besides those three: Washington, New York, and Jacksonville. Maybe Miami. Because they're probably getting rid of Tannehill.
Yeah, maybe.
But I don't see them going for him. But they could. I could be wrong on that.
I would think Miami would make the most sense because they're a team that's not really – they don't really are looking to make the playoffs this year. Mm-hmm. So I think if they sign Bridgewater and, boom, they hit lightning in a bottle with him and he turns out to be great, look, they just found their franchise quarterback.
True.
But if he's not,
I think they're going to get one in the draft because it doesn't.
But they can do both. They
of course, they can do both.
If they're going to get rid of Tannehill, which it sounds like they probably will, then they can do both.
That sounds like a foregone conclusion. You're right. So
they could actually do both and save a lot of money. They could sign Bridgewater $10 million for 2 years, and then draft a quarterback, and then you're only paying $10 million at that position each year, which is a bargain. Makes you able to go get other guys and build your team before you get a quarterback.
Yeah. So it all comes down to and then of course if Bridgewater does really well and asks for a ton of money, then they're kind of in trouble in that sense. Do you move on and try to keep on building a team around him and go with a rookie quarterback, or do you keep your guy that's been playing well? That is another question you got to ask yourself. But I think overall, Miami might be the place for Bridgewater. I can honestly see Florida just being a place for him, just both Miami and Jacksonville. But if Washington gets him, I can totally see that too. If he's going to start next season, it's going to be either Washington or Miami. Mm-hmm. I can put Jacksonville in there too, but I really don't know what they're going to do in the draft because I think it sounds like they're going after Murray or Haskins, and it sounds like he's going to get the ball right away.
Other quarterbacks too: Tyrod Taylor, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Obviously, we talked about Tannehill. We talked about Bortles, possibly Dalton being in there. Josh McCown is a free agent. Nick Foles is still the trade target.
Yeah, but honestly, for the Washington, I see Fitzpatrick going there. That's his best spot, and he's going to start. That's my prediction, at least. I feel like that's his best chance to get a start and win.
Yeah. So there is other players. I mean, there are other options out there. It just depends where these teams want to go. But again, I think we're in a buyer's market. I mean, not a bad time to be a quarterback-needy team, considering usually the cupboard is more bare than it is this offseason. Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's won football games. Tannehill, I think Tannehill has a winning record as a starter in this league. Tyrod Taylor. He's been
God,
to the
does he?
playoffs. Bridgewater, first-round pick. Bortles, former first-round pick. Like, there's not a ton of bad options. Like, these guys, yes, they all are a free agent for one way or another, of course. But it could be worse. And that's why I find it weird going back to the Flacco trade. I mean, the Broncos, man, like they really
wasted an opportunity.
They really decided to spend a 4th-round pick on Joe Flacco.
Yeah, like honestly, Tannehill might have been better off in Denver, all things considered.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Anyways, should we take a break?
Yeah, I'm trying to find Tannehill's record. He has 40, let's see, I just had it, I lost it in my head. He had 42 wins, 46 losses. So he's under 500, but he's close to 500.
He's under 500, but I think his first year his rookie year was really bad, if I remember correctly. Like, yeah. I think he's
usually either 7-9 or 9-7 though. It's one or the other.
Yeah, no, they're usually around 500. But I know that they have been the last 2 years. The Dolphins have been really good under Tannehill. He's just been hurt a lot, but when he's played, they won some ridiculous amount of games with him under center, which is crazy.
Yeah, but. Yeah, once again, this is
he's not a bad quarterback.
He's not bad at all, but I think there's a lot of more talent. There's a lot of talent available in the quarterback position.
If he'd been able to stay healthy, he's just been hurt. He tore his ACL. He's done other stuff.
Yeah. So I don't see him being the starter next season. Unfortunately, I just think there's too other opportunities around him that are going to get opportunities because of health reasons. And I think Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to take one of his jobs, to be honest with you. Just based off how well he did at the beginning of last season. So I think that's what's going to happen. But we can take a break if you want now. And when we come back, we can talk about other options in free agency that we can take a look at. We'll be right there right after this.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back, everyone, to the GSMC Football Podcast, finishing up our free agent talk. Well, he's not a free agent, but it needs to be discussed. Antonio Brown has officially requested a trade from the Pittsburgh Steelers, which puts the Steelers in a bond about his contract because they're going to have at least over $20 million in dead cap space. So the question is who is this benefiting more? Like, Antonio Brown's kind of been much of a hassle, and character has been a judgment in the Steelers locker room. But what are you doing if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers after this trade request?
Seeing what's out there in the market, but I'm not going to take a lowball offer for him. We know that a trade, if I'm the Steelers, my approach is we know that we're not going to get full value back for Antonio Brown, and giving up a player that caliber plus about a tenth of our salary cap to do it, to actually get rid of him, is a tough pill to swallow. So I'm not running out and looking to trade him.
He should use water.
I'm not running out and looking to trade him. If we get a great offer, cool. But if not, oh well.
I think one of the main things about this that I have to say you should look at to be careful is, his domestic violence issue, like recent trouble, like that might make the Steelers think we got to get rid of this guy as soon as possible and make a lowball offer. I think this domestic violence issue might benefit more of the teams looking forward to trading him than the Steelers looking to trade him. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Because this might be more of an issue than we think it is, and he could go for a couple third-round picks instead of a couple first because of the situation.
Yeah, I really don't know what the market is, honestly. It's hard to project, like we were talking about. I mean, who is running out to trade one of the top, I don't know, non-quarterbacks, one of the top 10, 15 players in the NFL, and giving up $22 million? Like, no one.
Yeah.
You'd have to really give me something worth a lot of value in return, and I just don't see that happening at this moment. We talk about teams, maybe other possibilities, Colts, we've heard 49ers, other teams that have the cap space, but at the end of the day, are they willing to give up some high picks? Because I don't think the Steelers make that trade unless they get one or two very high picks. When I say one or two, I mean I don't think they're trading him for a second-round pick.
In an interesting turn of events, the Steelers had traded him for a pack of gummy bears. just trying to get rid of him as soon as possible. But it's one of those things in where, yeah, you're right.
And it's a contract, man. Like, the reason why he's untradeable, in my opinion, is
the contract.
It's not him.
If his contract didn't give them $23 million in dead cap, and it was like there was no dead cap, this would be done by now.
Yeah, if they could just get rid of him and then have a more substantial, like a more reasonable amount that they owed, yeah, he'd go for probably a pretty good return. But
it's the cap issue. It's the dead cap issue. That is the one thing that's holding this whole trade thing back.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. But the request for the trade is now formal. I still don't see them trading him before June, at least. Like, maybe if they do, it's closer to the season. I don't think we'll see any movement on this until June, July, maybe even closer to the season, if at all it happens. But yeah, the ball is now in the Steelers' court, and I think they'll be able to kind of gauge the market. But if people are expecting like a trade of Antonio Brown before the draft, could happen. I just don't think it will. I really don't.
I don't think it will either. But, there's been more shocking before. I mean, like Joe Flacco being traded. We didn't expect that to happen. So, in this soon. So, it's still a possibility. It's not like we're throwing it out the window. We've seen these things happen before just to get rid of a player. So, they might have to take this one on the chin.
Yeah.
Because Antonio Brown, not going to lie, has some personality issues, and teammates have problems with him. So it might be a better for the team itself rather than like the front office in theory. But really, it all comes down to like who's going to offer the highest price.
This reminds me of Terrell Owens and Randy Moss. When Terrell Owens was traded from the 49ers, people are like, oh, it could be good for the team because he doesn't want to be there. It was a terrible trade for the 49ers. And then I look at Randy Moss. Oh, he was terrible for the team in Oakland. They traded him for the Patriots. Terrible trade for the Raiders.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, I don't buy it. I get it. Like, he's kind of a pain, right? He's a pain in the butt. He rubs people the wrong way. But, man, he's good. Like, he's really good. And in this league, he's one of the 4 or 5 receivers that are just uncoverable. We've seen Jalen Ramsey just not be able to stop this guy. He's one of the best wide receivers of all time. The Steelers might get rid of him, and he might want to leave. But don't get it twisted. They won't get better because they get rid of Antonio Brown. I don't care about team chemistry. I don't care about any of that junk. They're not getting better. Big Ben is not getting better next year without Antonio Brown.
You're right, but I think it's time to admit if you're a Steeler, you're very close to in a rebuilding period.
Steelers don't rebuild.
I know, but I think it's time to finally admit it, though.
But they've never done it.
You know what? We got to give them an intervention because they're not looking too good for the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. They just have to find their next quarterback. Their next quarterback.
But I'm going to say this. If they don't make the playoffs in the next 2-3 years in a row, it wouldn't surprise me.
I'd be very shocked.
Well, the thing is how good the Browns look and how good, in the Ravens.
I got to stop you right there. The Browns. Let's have the Browns get a winning season, and then let's talk about them being good.
They are good, though.
They're not good. They are what their record says they are. They're 7-8-1.
That is not true at all. They had a bad coaching to start the season. If in a couple missed field goals by Gonzalez, they have a winning season this year. I completely disagree with you on that one. The record does not define who they are.
I like what the Browns are doing. I like the direction they're going in. But they're the Browns. And until they have a winning season, I'm going to still be skeptical of them. And say what you want about the Steelers. Say what you want about their turmoil. That's a team that doesn't miss the playoffs more than 1 year. They don't miss the playoffs back-to-back years. Could they do it? Absolutely. If you're just looking at the team. But everything that we've seen, everything shows us that the Steelers will be a playoff team next year and the Browns will be 5-11. Everything shows us that. Yes, things are slightly different now. I get it. And the Browns look like they're heading in the right direction. They finally look like they have a good quarterback. They finally look like they have a good running game. They finally look like they have a lot of talent. But aren't you still a little bit worried about them?
Well,
they also have a first-time head coach. How often do first-time head coaches come in and strike gold right away? Not too often. It's happened. It's happened. You can give me an example, but that doesn't take away from the fact that it's hard. Okay. We have no idea about Freddie Kitchens. Freddie Kitchens could be awful. We have no idea.
He reminds me a lot of how Jim Harbaugh entered with the 49ers because the 49ers had
But Kitchens was never a head coach.
I know, but can you hear me out first?
Sure.
He came in. Jim Harbaugh had no head coaching experience in the NFL level.
The NFL.
Yes, and he went into there, and the lockout happened, and people thought, oh, this team, since they were 6-10 last year, they didn't add anyone really new or special. This team's not going to do well at all. But he had a very talented team, and he went 13-3. There's so much talent on this Browns team, and Kitchens has been a part of this team already with his offense coordinator and all this stuff. This team I'm going to say right now, I see them winning the AFC North.
That could happen. I'm not saying no, but you can't compare Kitchens to Jim Harbaugh.
Well, we can't yet because we haven't seen Kitchens coach yet.
Exactly. But Harbaugh had years and years of head coaching experience before he joined the 49ers.
But the thing is, with Kitchens, he's had experience with this team in the past.
Yeah, he was offensive coordinator for a year.
He's familiar with this team. That's what I think is a big advantage for him.
Sure. I'm not taking anything away from that. But we know that just because you're a decent coordinator, we don't even know if he's really that good of a coordinator. Mm-hmm. I mean, he doesn't have a long list of accomplishments, right? He's still a very young, new guy.
True.
He could fall flat on his face. He could be just as bad as Hugh Jackson. He really could. We don't know. I'm assuming no one is going to be as bad as
I was
Hugh
about to
Jackson.
say, I don't think anyone's going that low. But granted, I understand what you're saying.
But coaching matters in the NFL. Coaching really matters.
Yes.
So if you get the coach wrong, I don't care how talented that team is. You pointed out something that I found super interesting. Why were the Niners so bad before Harbaugh? They had talent. They had Frank Gore. They had Vernon Davis.
They had an amazing defense.
Alex Smith turned out to be a pretty decent quarterback. Patrick Willis, one of the greatest linebackers to ever play. Navarro Bowman. I mean, we have a lot. There's a lot of talent on that team that Harbaugh stepped into. But who was their head coach before? Mike Singletary.
And he was a defensive-minded coach. I understand Hugh Jackson was supposed to be this offensive-minded coach, but the fact is, this coach, Harbaugh had kind of a relationship with Alex Smith, in the offseason and stuff. They had this bond they had. You could see. I think Kitchens and Mayfield have a bond.
Right. I'm not taking anything away from that.
I just see a lot of similarities with Jim Harbaugh.
But the bond stuff, I don't who cares about that? The fact is, it's different to go from a coordinator to a head coach, and whether or not Mike Singletary wasn't unsuccessful because he was a defensive guy. He was unsuccessful because he wasn't a good coach. The dude was never even a coordinator, and he was a position coach and then a head coach. And then he wasn't good. Jim Harbaugh stepped into a situation where the 49ers at that time were one of the top 10 or 12 most talented football teams, but they were 6-10 because they had a quarterback who had no confidence. He didn't have the right tutelage. Singletary couldn't fix him. They had talent, but they couldn't put it all together. You get a guy like Harbaugh who has experience. He had the pedigree. He came in. He really fixed that team. Now, can Kitchens do it? He certainly could, but let's not forget, Greg Williams was their interim coach. So even last year, Freddie Kitchens wasn't calling the shots. This year he gets a chance. I love what the Browns are doing, but we can't just say slam dunk the Browns are a really good NFL team. That's all. That was my entire point. It's like we just have to. I just
said they're one of the most talented teams. I never said they were going to be like 14-2.
Right, but we know that talented doesn't necessarily translate to wins.
Mm-hmm. But I can see it translating to wins.
Sure,
I see them being. I thought I was going to sneeze. Something.
But the Steelers are still a very talented team. And they still have a very good running back, and they still have a very good wide receiver.
That team's in turmoil, dude.
Even without Antonio Brown, that team has a very good wide receiver. They have a pretty good defense. Like, the team isn't terrible. You talk about turmoil. They've been in turmoil.
Yeah, but it's gotten worse. Like, if you talk to Steelers fans, I feel like they'd be worried about this next couple of years.
Of course they're worried. No one says they're not worried. They're absolutely worried. They're pissed off. They're mad at Tomlin. People are calling for him to be fired.
But, that might be a long time coming, too.
But you know what? They were saying this stuff about the Steelers a couple years ago, too. This isn't the first time they've been in this, like, God, what's our team's problem? What's going on here? We have too many egos on our team. They still have talent. So, yeah, they might lose Le'Veon and Antonio Brown, and they may have to reassess. But, hey, they're a franchise that's known for when they get hit, they bounce right back.
Well, if I understand what you're saying, but I'm still confident in my prediction of the Browns are taking the AFC North, and I don't see the Steelers being a contender for quite some time. I just don't see it.
Okay, yeah.
I could be honestly, it's a prediction. I could be totally wrong, of course, but it just looks like
I think a lot of people also want the Browns to be good. Like, I really want them to be good. I hope they don't crash and burn.
I would say they had one of the top, like you said about the 49ers being one of the top 12 or 11 most talented teams. You could put the Browns in that category right now. With the talent they have,
they're I don't know if they're one of the most talented teams in the NFL, but they're a very talented team. They're
I would put them in my top 10 most talented team.
Would you put them in the top 4 of the AFC?
Let's see. That's tough to do. But I probably won't. But
right now, the all too early power rankings. We don't know what the draft or free agency is going to bring. So
this is just AFC.
Let's just be clear about that.
Okay.
Looking at next year, obviously there are going to be major changes to some of these teams, but let's assume that everything stays exactly how it is right now.
Okay.
Are they a top 4 AFC team right now?
Well, let's look at the AFC.
Patriots,
yes.
Chiefs.
Yes. Chargers.
All right, Patriots, Chiefs, Chargers. So then now we're at that number 4 range.
Maybe the Colts.
Indianapolis.
Okay, Colts.
So you gotta like what they're doing.
I would consider putting the Browns at number 5 though.
Yeah, maybe.
It's not too far off.
But you know who you'd also consider putting at number 5?
I think
the Steelers.
Yeah, I knew you were gonna say. I just honestly think that the Browns are more talented than the Steelers.
The Ravens as well got to be up there.
See, they have a lot of flaws.
You know what?
Though.
We screwed up.
Who?
The Texans.
Oh gosh, that's right. So I put them over. I put them over the Chargers. To be honest with you.
Okay, but the Chargers are a very good team.
Oh, yeah. But honestly, the Texans look like a force to be reckoned with for years to come. How good Hopkins is at all time.
Hopkins, yeah.
You could put Hopkins as the number 1 receiver in the league at this point.
And then you got Watt and Clowney, assuming they keep
Clowney's a big question mark because we don't know where he's going to go.
They could franchise him.
Yes, but
They
again,
will.
Yeah, it sounds like they will, but it sounds like he's also going to want to look at other teams. They haven't really decided what they're going to do with him yet.
So the Browns are in the mix. I agree with that. If I had to look at it right now, I'd say they're probably in the top 6.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it is still kind of hard to put them over the Ravens because the Ravens did win the division, and
they took advantage of a lot.
Let's be honest, the Ravens are just not an exciting team. We don't really like them, because. Look, they don't put up a lot of points. They're a defensive team.
I gotta say, it was because poor coaching decisions early in the Browns season with Hugh Jackson and the missed field goals and a lot of bad luck that they did not win their division. But they could have won their division that last year because adding a couple of those missed field goals to making field goals, they have 10 or 11 wins rather than losing season.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly, that's how I see it.
Yeah.
I think all this coach, all the Kitchens needs to do is not huge accident, not mess up. It's very simple not to mess up. You don't have to try to be great. Just try not to mess up.
Yeah, for sure. But we'll see. This also is a big year for the Browns. They have Chubb, they have Kareem Hunt. They look good. But you know what?
Good.
Now teams are going to be looking at them seriously because it's harder to win when you have a target on your back, and now they're kind of a team that has a target on their back, and that's good. That means they're progressing in the right direction because if you're a team that nobody cares about, if you're a losing team, everybody's like, oh, that's cute. You won a game or two, like whatever. But Baker Mayfield has put the NFL on notice. He has come in, and he really has shown people why the Browns.
And hey, he hasn't grabbed his crotch yet in the NFL. That's a good sign.
Not yet.
Not yet. Cross your fingers. Oh my God, he's gonna do it, isn't he?
Maybe.
Oh boy.
Maybe at some point. Anyways, I think that's our show, but
Yeah.
I did want to talk about that picture of DK Metcalf, the wide receiver.
Oh my goodness, the man looks like a monster. Like he looks like he was like. You ever played Resident Evil?
No.
Well, one of the storylines is like they make zombies. They were trying to make this basically virus to make a perfect human being, perfect specimen. That's what Umbrella Corporation was trying to do, make a perfect specimen, and that's what came out. He's literally came out of a lab. He looks like, like
I have to say, though,
I present to you the most perfect human being.
I have to say though, is he too big for a wide receiver?
I want to see him at the combine. I want to see how he does at the combine. If his speed matches his body size, then maybe. But if he runs just as quick, like if he runs like let's say a 4.5 roughly, like a wide receiver type of 40, then man, he's moving up high in the combine.
Yeah. He's obviously
he's got the size, he's got the height and the size. If he has the speed, oh man, he's next level.
Yeah, he definitely looks the part. The problem is, like you said, if his agility and acceleration numbers, if they take a hit, then I wonder. But man, if he can put up big numbers with that physique, he's definitely impressive looking. The crazy thing is the picture of him. He's standing next to other receivers, and they all look like they're little kids. Like they all look like little brothers to him. It's like, who are these little guys? And they're all big in their own right, which is crazy. Anyways, that's our show for today. Join us tomorrow as we talk more. We'll dive in. We didn't dive into the Cliff Kingsbury, Josh Rosen stuff, but we will do that tomorrow. We'll also talk about the AAF and the weekend matchups, see if anybody is going to be watching. And, of course, thank you for joining us.
Yes, absolutely. And as always, I'm Jeff Malinoff, and that's Mark Souza. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.